Hello everyone, it's the Alfred Adventure here with another album review, and as you can see, I cut my hair. It was a bit of a tough decision to make, but I decided to do that, and don't worry, as long as I have black skin, I'm still going to be the Alfred Avenger. I'll probably take the D off though. But anyways, the album that I want to review today is an album called Delilah by Anderson East. It was released this year, July 10th. I don't have any chart information on it, but it was released under the label Elektra, and its singles are Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, and Forget 'Em, and Satisfy Me. So without further ado, let's get this started. So the first I ever even heard of Anderson East was when he performed on, I believe, The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. He was performing the song Satisfy Me, and I said to myself, this artist sounds pretty good, I should check him out. So lo and behold, that's exactly what I did. I listened to his debut studio album under the record label Elektra, and I was actually quite impressed with what I heard. Delilah really takes you back to those times in the 60s where one of the main forms of music was soul, and this album is full of just that. Right from the get-go, the opening track, Only You, has a 50s, 60s girl group style reminiscent of groups like the Ronettes, the Shirelles, the Angels, or the Crystals. The lyricism isn't anything to write home about, at least not yet. This track is your simple love song. And what really makes it good is Anderson's scratchy, rugged vocal style. It's like if you took John Mayer and threw some gravel down his throat and you get Anderson East. The next track, I believe, is one of the focal tracks, Satisfy Me, and this is where things start to get interesting. It blends Motown soul with a kind of southern soul style, creating a very enjoyable tune altogether. In this song, he's saying that he's not an easy guy to please. At the same time, he's saying he's a good lover, but the girl has to be equally as good at pleasing as he is. Great track and interesting lyricism, saying things like he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and to him, it was just a hill. Now, while Anderson wrote pretty much all the songs with a little assistance from others, there's one track that was not his at all, and that's Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, and Forget 'Em. This happens to be one of my, actually my favorite track on this album. The story behind getting this song was that Anderson came down to northern Alabama where Fame Studios is located so he could record the album. Upon being there, he found the song, which is written by blues and soul singer-songwriter George Jackson, and decided to use it in his album. It's perhaps the heaviest track on the entire album, but it has a really tight groove going on. It tells the story of a young man's father telling him that when it comes to women, you've got to find them, fool them, and forget them. He takes no heed to this and falls in love with a woman who eventually leaves him in a very cruel manner. He remembers his father's words and wishes he did those very three things to avoid this heartbreak. The horns are a great addition to this track and really bring out its soulfulness. The entire idea behind this album is actually biblical. The one known as Delilah, for those who don't know, was a person in the Bible who was involved in the story of Samson, a man who at the time was the strongest human being on the face of the earth, but this was only because God ordained him this strength through his long flowing hair. In other words, if his hair was cut, he would lose his strength. Well, Samson fell in love with a girl named Delilah and put his full trust in her, telling her all his secrets. One day while Samson was asleep, Delilah cut his hair, thus leaving him powerless. This Bible story plays a big part in this album. The majority of it is talking about love and heartbreak, which are typical themes for much of music. However, the references and comparisons to this biblical story make it all the more interesting when it comes to the album's themes. It doesn't have many, but it works because of what it's based on, and some of the tracks are actually influenced by religious themes, such as the next track, Devil in Me. Devil in Me is a track that, putting it simply, is the story of a guy and a girl who we can both assume are churchgoers, but this girl is so beautiful that she's bringing out the devil in him. Interestingly enough, this is the first and I believe only track that makes mention of the character Delilah, saying that she's my Delilah. Now, considering what we just learned about Delilah, this is most likely a bad thing. Delilah tricked Samson and basically brought out the devil in him, a godly man, with her temptations. The same thing is happening to Anderson regarding this girl. It's also worth mentioning that this track has more of a country influence to it as well. One particular instrument that plays a pivotal role in this album is a honky-tonk style piano. On quite a few of these tracks, they really bring that out as the main instrument being heard besides the guitars and drums. You don't really hear any honky-tonk pianos in music anymore, not even in modern country music. You hear it prominently in the next track too, All I'll Ever Need, which again is a simple love song about, a girl being all a guy will ever need. Going back to that Motown style of soul, Quit You is a song about a girl being kind of like a bad drug habit, where the guy knows she's not for him, but he can't quit her. He wants to, but simply can't. It has a great use of organ as well as a nice little keyboard solo thrown in. It's kind of in the style of later Temptations and Four Tops. Now, the next track, What a Woman Wants to Hear, is rather self-explanatory, but it really stands out from the rest of these tracks, mainly because it's acoustic for the most part. The main instrument is an acoustic guitar, and it's very light and very intimate, which really fits the lyrics that talk about saying and doing all the things that a woman dreams of, mainly just to get with her. It doesn't sound very intimate or even very endearing, but that's the song. It's deceptively beautiful, and I love it. As near the end of the album, we come to another country-style track that shares the sentiments of a lot of guys coming out of their first relationship, saying that they wish they could fix whatever flaws they had, or take back things they said but they didn't mean. Lonely doesn't stand out in any way, but the lyrics are very relatable because I've definitely been there, and I'm sure a lot of guys out there have too. Still a nice track overall. Keep the Fire Burning is another kind of girl group style track. It's got those twangy guitar stings that you hear in a lot of those kinds of songs. It's about, well, trying to keep that fire burning in a failing relationship, and how hard it is to do so. So it kind of builds off of what the previous track was saying. Another soulful track, but I don't feel that Anderson's vocals were as emotional or inspired as they were on tracks like Satisfy Me or Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, and Forget 'Em. Now we come to the final track, which is Surprise, another country-style song, and that's not to say that any of these songs that are influenced by country, southern rock, and folk are bad at all. It kind of rounds up the whole idea of this album having a very southern feeling, with its use of southern soul above all else. But anyways, Lying in Her Arms may simply come off as a song that talks about thinking about a past love while with a current love, but taking a deeper look into it. We bring back the idea of Samson and Delilah, and that the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this track kind of incorporates that story where Samson was falling for Delilah and was, in a way, throwing away God's love for this woman. Whether this is true or not, the connections are somewhat uncanny, and I couldn't help but bring that notion to light. Overall, this is a pretty tight album. Some tracks stuck out from others, but no track on here I felt was really bad or unenjoyable. The best tracks definitely had to be the first four straight through, and Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, Forget 'Em was probably the most standout track for me, even though it wasn't Anderson's song. Its use of classic soul sounds was really excellent, especially in a time where most artists aren't doing things like Motown-style soul, or blending it with country and folk for that matter. So on that part, Anderson East does a very good job. I also really like the biblical aspects of this album, making it seem a bit deeper than it appears on the surface. I await his next project that he'll hopefully be putting out at some point in the future, but for now I definitely recommend you check out this album. If you really enjoy groups like the Temptations, the Rolling Stones, the Ronettes, the Four Tops, or any 60s group like that, then you'll definitely get a kick out of this album. Thank you all for watching this another album review. If you like this, please hit the like button and show your love, and also subscribe to see when I'm putting out new videos. And if you want a song or an album to be reviewed that you like and recommend, just leave a comment down below, or hit me up on my Facebook or my Twitter. The links are in the description, and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. But again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. So long.